Good afternoon. We will call today's meeting of the Local Government Committee to order. We've asked the sergeant to please call the absent members. We do not yet have a quorum, so we will begin as a subcommittee. Just a few housekeeping items to go over before we start. We'll have 2 witnesses per side, up to 3 minutes each. Anyone beyond those limits will just simply state their name, organization, and position. For the record, we have 13 items on the agenda today. Item number 12, AB 1127, Cooley, has been pulled off calendar by the author. And item number 13, AB 1220, Harper, has also been pulled off calendar by the author. Our committee hears bills and authors sign in order. You have quorum now, right? 1, 2, 3, me, 5. We need one more. Oh, okay. Okay, so we'll begin as a subcommittee with our first item number 6, AB 448, Brown. Ms. Brown, welcome, and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In 2006, the state enacted AB 1602 by then Assemblymember John Laird. AB 1602 restored previously approved funding to newly incorporated cities, which was lost in 2004 as a part of Proposition 1A. AB 1602 also enabled communities that were in the process of proposing incorporation or annexation to be deemed financially viable by providing a $50 per capita motor vehicle license fee allocation. Since the passage of AB 1602, the residents of Eastville, Jurupa Valley, Menifee, and Wildomar voted to become cities. Likewise, cities such as Fontana, San Jose, San Ramon, and Santa Clara annexed inhabited areas. Unfortunately, in 2011, the legislature took away the VLF to fund state law enforcement grants. The 2011 state budget shifted $137 million from local government's fund to fund public safety and has disproportionately impacted communities in the Inland Empire. For instance, the city of Fontana, that's located in my district in the Inland Empire, has lost $800,000 as a result of SB 89. Fontana annexed unincorporated areas in San Bernardino County after 2004, and as a result has struggled to provide public safety services to the area. AB 448 will restore funding to cities that were negatively affected by SB 89 and help sustainably plan them for the future. I have with me today the Mayor of Fontana, Aquanetta Warren, and the police chief, as well as Jason Gonzalez, who is here to talk about how the lack of funding has affected the local governments.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. And before we proceed with testimony, I'd just ask, we do now have a quorum present, and I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mainshine.
Here.
Mainshine here. Gonzalez. Alejo. Here. Alejo here. Chu. Here. Chu here. Cooley.
Here.
Cooley here. Gordon.
Here.
Gordon here. Holden. Linder. Waldron. Here. Waldron here.
Thank you. Your witnesses may proceed.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Chief Rod Jones of the Fontana Police Department. SB 89, which passed in the late hours of the 2011 budget, unknowingly and unfairly took a disproportionate share of VLF vehicle licensees from cities that recently annexed previously unincorporated areas and newly incorporated cities. We ask your support for AB 448 to restore the disproportionate share of VLF taken from several California cities. Fontana is a city of about 205,000 residents. AB 109 and Prop 47 has created a very unique problem for Fontana for the thousands of people who have been released from West Valley Jail, which is on our city border. Fontana's total loss of vehicle license fees from the 2011 budget, SB 89, was $1.4 million. The state average was about $3.50 per capita in VLF funds lost from SB 89. Fontana's loss was over twice that much. Fontana is losing nearly $800,000 over what the rest of the state average loses every single year. We realize that we must pay our fair share like every other city, but the share that we pay must be fair. Last year, when we were not successful in restoring the disproportionate loss of VLS funds, I lost 5 police officers. Out of the 10 municipal police departments in San Bernardino County, Fontana has the lowest staffing ratio of all of them. We serve 205,000 residents with 190 sworn positions. If approved, AB 448, all of the funds restored to Fontana will go to public safety and restore those 5 officers. As Chief of Police for the City of Fontana, I urge your support of 448, and I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you this afternoon.
Mr. Chairman and members, Jason Gonsalves, representing the cities of Fontana, Europa Valley, and Wildemar. Just very briefly, as the Chief noted, this bill seeks to restore the disproportionate impacts. What all other cities throughout the state lost, Fontana and the others that annexed will continue to lose their share. The new incorporated cities will lose their share as well. There's a 2-bill package, SB 25, over in the Senate for the new incorporated cities, and this legislation, AB 488, for the annexations. And it does have statewide potential or impact for cities throughout the state, and we respectfully request your support. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dan Carrick on behalf of the League of California Cities. These particular cities were really harmed by the VLF takeaway, and that issue should be addressed. We also think this bill has some positive policy impacts going forward for the state, so appreciate your support.
Thank you. Any further witnesses in support? Seeing none. Witnesses in opposition? Seeing none. Questions or comments from the committee? We have a motion from Mr. Cooley, a second from Ms. Waldron. Ms. Brown, you may close.
I respectfully ask for your aye votes. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, so I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
The motion is do pass and re-refer to the Committee on Appropriations. Mainshine.
Aye.
Mainshine, aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Gonzalez, aye. Alejo. Aye. Alejo, aye. Chu. Aye. Chu, aye. Cooley.
Aye.
Cooley, aye. Gordon. Aye. Gordon, aye. Holden. Linder. Waldron. Aye. Waldron, aye.
Thank you.
Your measure is out, 7-0. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next is item number 3, AB 237. Mr. Daly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'm accepting the committee amendments on this bill, which is AB 237. This regards the parcel tax, which is one of the means for local governments to raise revenue for programs and services. Currently, if you're a property owner who resides in a community where a vote on a parcel tax is going to occur, you typically learn of the proposed tax when you receive your ballot information in the mail, if you live in the community. However, if you are a non-resident property owner, if you own property in the jurisdiction that will consider the tax but live elsewhere, you won't be notified that a vote is looming. This bill requires local governments to inform owners of all properties within their jurisdictions when they have acted to place a proposed parcel tax on the ballot. The bill requires that notification be provided by U.S. mail within 1 week following that action. I believe that 1 week may be should be evaluated in light of the realities of the notification process, and if the bill gets out of this committee, I'll take that up at the next committee because this has been double referred. This bill pertains, of course, to any city, county, school district, or special district authorized to impose a parcel tax. My bill requires the local agency to inform property owners about the amount of the proposed parcel tax, the period of time for which the tax would be collected, and, of course, the date of the election. Finally, the bill allows a local agency to recover the reasonable cost of the notice requirement, including expenses for preparation and postage. As I previously mentioned, I am accepting that amendment today that the committee has recommended concerning the Commission on State Mandates acting in the event that a parcel tax is not approved by local voters. In other words, reimbursement could be pursued if the tax is not approved by local voters. And I'm committed to working with any of the opponents and others to develop the most logical time frame and process for notification should there be issues. With me today is Christopher Carlisle, representing the California Association of Realtors, who are sponsoring this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christopher Carlisle with the California Association of Realtors, the sponsors of this measure. A lot of folks think of parcel taxes as being relatively small, $25, $50. But when you multiply that with a multifamily unit, whether it be 10, 20, 100, or 200, and let's keep in mind, parcel taxes don't make a distinction between a senior citizens complex and farm worker housing. It's all per door, and you start multiplying that $25 or $50 times 20 or 50 or 100, it adds up. Let's not blindside property owners. Let's give them proper notice of an upcoming vote. That's for your aye vote.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Sean Topaikin with the California Apartment Association. We too are in support. I want to thank the author. We think the information in this bill will be particularly helpful to rental property owners throughout the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Further witnesses in support? Seeing none. Witnesses in opposition?
Mr. Chair, members, Nancy Chaitis-Espinosa with the California School Boards Association. We unfortunately have to oppose this measure for a few different reasons, as your analysis rightly pointed out. And first off, we appreciate the author accepting the committee amendment, making sure that there are resources to cover this mandate, even in the event that the measure is not successful. However, we still remain concerned about the bill creating a duplicative notification requirement. These decisions are made by all of our respective governing boards in open session. Any interested parties, not only those who live there, are able to participate in the process. There's ample notice already. And the 1 week timeline in the bill is also not feasible. Some of our agencies will actually have to work with more than one county registrar recorder, so it's simply not possible to get the information that we would need on the voter file, go to print, and actually conduct a notification in this amount of time. So we will respectfully oppose.
Thank you.
Christina Lockey with the California Special Districts Association. We represent independent special districts throughout California that provide infrastructure and vital services such as libraries, hospital services, fire protection. And we must regrettably oppose the bill as well. I want to echo the comments of my colleague. We oppose for the same reasons. We're concerned about the duplicative nature of the bill. Again, governing bodies have to go through a very public and open process before they vote to put a parcel tax on the ballot, and then the ballot the parcel tax goes through the normal electoral process with a sample ballot, sample voter guide, et cetera, for voters to be well informed of what they're voting on. We do very much appreciate the author's willingness to work with us to address our concerns, particularly when it comes to cost. As the committee analysis notes, parcel taxes, especially for local governments, face a very steep hurdle in passing in the first place with a 2/3 vote. And so that cost, it was definitely going to create an additional burden or hurdle for local governments that were considering parcel taxes as a way to help fund vital infrastructure and services. We also appreciate your willingness, the author's willingness, to work on the timing issue. Again, we often cross multiple county lines, so we would be working with multiple jurisdictions and trying to gather this information. But again, we must regrettably oppose and ask for your no vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further witnesses in opposition? Seeing none, questions or comments from the committee? Mr. Daly, a couple things. One is I appreciate your willingness to work and your commitment to work with the opponents on the timing issue, the timeline issue. I think that's commendable. You're obviously, I want to thank you for your work with the committee as well to get it to this point. I certainly, I'll be supporting it. I think there's this need. I know in my prior life as a city council member, this issue came up several times. So I think this is an important bill to address a real problem that affects local government. So I want to thank you for bringing this, and I'll be in support of it. Ms. Waldron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. This bill would have to go to another committee
Correct.
and to appropriations, or just is it double referred?
The next committee is Assembly Education Committee. I think it'll have to go to approps as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe so.
I support the bill. I was
Thank
just
you.
thinking that with that, you'd still have time to work with the opponents and.
That's right, and I acknowledge that the time frame is probably too short for the notification. How much time the district has to notify the property owners. It needs to be a little longer. It needs to be realistic. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from the committee? Ms. Gonzalez, yeah. It has not been moved. Ms. Gonzalez moves, Mr. Linder seconds, and just to clarify, the motion would be do pass as amended to accept the committee amendment listed in comment 6 of the analysis, which would clarify the bill's provisions are subject to reimbursement pursuant to the Commission on State Mandates process. Is that consistent with your motion, Ms. Gonzalez? Great. So we have a motion and a second, and I ask the clerk to please call the roll.
The motion is do pass as amended and re-refer to the Committee on Education. Mainshine.
Aye.
Mainshine, aye. Gonzalez. Gonzalez, aye. Alejo. Alejo not voting. Chu. Chu, aye. Cooley.
Aye.
Cooley, aye. Gordon.
Aye.
Gordon, aye. Holden. Linder.
Aye.
Linder, aye. Waldron. Waldron, aye.
Your motion is out 7-0.
Thank you, committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Next is item number 9, AB 951, Mr. Wilk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. First off, I'd like to start by accepting the proposed committee amendments, and I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chair and Vice Chair, as well as the committee staff for, frankly, producing a much better bill. So I want to thank you all for your efforts. AB 951 would require all regular and special meetings of the Santa Clarita Valley Sanitation District to be held within its district boundaries. Currently, the board meets over 50 miles away from the city of Santa Clarita, and if you're Southern California, and you know we don't go by miles, we go by minutes, so you're talking about maybe as long as 2 hours to get there and back. Obviously, it doesn't give a proper, it takes too long for regular people to go down and provide testimony, and bringing it closer to the people, I believe, will make a more accountable and more transparent government. So I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. We already have a motion from Mr. Gordon and a second from Ms. Waldron. Any further witnesses in support? Seeing none. Witnesses in opposition? Seeing none. Questions or comments from the committee?
I just want to thank you for working with us on the amendments, and I think it's a great bill. I mean, I live in a large county, obviously. A number of us live in the same large county, and it's quite a distance for people to go. So I think it's just you're doing the people's work.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations from that comment, Mr. Will.
I made sure I gave you a nice.
I know. I don't normally get that kind of feedback from. I got you a layoff this year. We're getting there.
Anyway, moving on. But you should work on that traffic situation. We're getting it fixed in our county, so you should work on it there. So we do have a motion and a second. The motion would be to do pass as amended to address the issue raised in comment 8C of the analysis, which will remove the provisions of the bill from the Brown Act and instead place them in the County Sanitation District Act, and to require the district to hold meetings anywhere in the service area of the district. So we have a motion and a second. Ask the clerk, please call the roll.
The motion is do pass as amended and re-refer to the Committee on Appropriations. Mainshine.
Aye.
Mainshine, aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Gonzalez, aye. Alejo. Aye. Alejo, aye. Chu. Aye. Chu, aye. Cooley.
Aye.
Cooley, aye. Gordon.
Aye.
Gordon, aye. Holden. Linder.
Aye.
Linder, aye. Waldron. Aye. Waldron, aye.
Your bill is out 8-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Thanks. Next is item number 10, AB 952, Ms. Garcia.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the committee staff for all their work on this bill. I'm taking the amendments that they have outlined in the analysis. I'd also like to thank Mr. Cooley, who offered to help me out today. I'm feeling better. AB 952 is a simple fix to what can be a problem for small cities. Special elections are expensive, and because they're so expensive, they are often out of reach for some local governments that cannot afford to have them. In these cases, the body makes an appointment, and that appointee serves out the duration of the term. Depending on when the appointment is made, this person would serve in an elected position without ever being elected by the voters for many years. While these appointments are made out of necessity, voters are left out of the equation. The simple fix presented in AB 952 would allow voters to have a voice. AB 952 would provide that if a city council fills a vacancy in an elective office by appointment, that the vacancy occurred in the first half of the term of the office and at least 130 days prior to the next general municipal election, the person appointed to fill the vacancy holds office until the next general municipal election, after which the appointee, should they desire to, would have to run for election. It does not prohibit special elections from being called. This bill simply seeks to balance effective use of taxpayer dollars while maintaining the voice of the voters. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Any witnesses in support? Seeing none. Witnesses in opposition? Seeing none. Questions or comments from the committee?
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Gonzalez. I think Mr. Gordon got the second in first, so or a dual second. So a second from Mr. Gordon. The motion would be is do pass as amended to accept the technical amendment listed in comment number 5 in the analysis. So we have a motion and a second. I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
The motion is do pass as amended, and we refer to the Committee on Elections and Redistricting. Mainshine.
Aye.
Mainshine, aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Gonzalez, aye. Alejo. Alejo not voting. Chu. Chu, aye. Cooley.
Aye.
Cooley, aye. Gordon.
Aye.
Gordon, aye. Holden. Linder.
Aye.
Linder, aye. Waldron. Waldron, aye.
Your measure is out 7-0.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, next is Mr. McCarty. And this is item 4, AB 422. Mr. McCarty.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. First off, I'd like to accept the committee amendments, which clarify that the board must take an action. So the big picture here is this is a local issue related to my Sacramento Regional Transit District, which provides public transportation for many in the greater Sacramento area. And like many transit districts, they depend on federal dollars for operation. And through the trans statute, they're able to bridge the gaps in short-term funding. But this is an imperfect tool for this district. This is a very unique transit district, not a bigger one like Muni or MTA, and not run by a major city. So their bonding capacity is limited, and how they're created in the Public Utilities Code kind of handcuffs them of what they have in their toolbox to basically try to fund their operations as they try to bridge the monies received from the federal government. So this would allow them to basically create and statute the opportunity to do loans up to 60 months to bridge that gap and save them money in the long run and provide stability and certainty to provide public transportation in the Sacramento area today. And with me today I have our General Manager and CEO, Mike Wiley, and Brent Berniger, the Director of Finance, to testify.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having this bill before you today. This is a fairly critical bill to us. We rely fairly routinely on our line of credit. This would give us some additional flexibility and actually reduce the cost of our line of credit, and therefore we can pump those savings back into service, which is really what we're about. The limit that we're asking for is consistent with our federal funding. And just to put it in perspective, generally the federal funding that goes into our operating budget pays for preventative maintenance. And the funding flows to us generally 2 to 3 months after the close of the fiscal year when we've actually spent the money. So we pay ourselves back and we finance it over the course of the year through this line of credit. So we would certainly appreciate your support.
We have a motion from Mr. Cooley.
Second.
Second from Mr. Chu. Any other witnesses in support?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Kiara Ross on behalf of the City of Sacramento in strong support of the bill.
Any other witnesses in support? Seeing none, any witnesses in opposition? Seeing none, questions or comments from the committee? None? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Motion is due pass as amended to accept the committee amendment listed in comment 4 of the analysis, which will require the board to authorize the issuance of a note by a resolution adopted by the governing board. Okay, motion and a second. I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you.
You bet. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Ricardo, you may close.
Consideration and ask for your aye vote.
Thanks.
The motion is due pass as amended. Mainshine.
Aye.
Mainshine, aye. Gonzalez. Alejo. Aye. Alejo, aye. Chu.
Yep.
Chu, aye. Cooley.
Aye.
Cooley, aye. Gordon.
Not voting.
Gordon not voting. Holden. Linder.
Aye.
Linder, aye. Waldron.
Thank you.
Your measure is out 5-0. Do you want to take one? We'll take one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Next is item number 2. And we'll start, Mr. Bloom, with AB 180. Mr. Bloom has 2 items. AB 189. We'll start with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. AB 189 authorizes the California Arts Council to establish an official state-designated cultural district program for California. As you all know, the creative economy is a dynamic force in the California economy, generating over 7% of the state's economic activity and supporting 1.4 million jobs. Studies have shown that creative entities and business tend to cluster into certain areas, and these clusters are often well-loved parts of cities and can be found throughout the state, including your own districts. AB 189 will allow the California Arts Council to designate these kinds of areas as official California cultural districts. Establishing these state-designated cultural districts will help draw more tourism and commerce to these creative clusters. The bill specifies that the Arts Council will develop criteria and guidelines for state-designated districts, and additionally, the Arts Council will establish a competitive application system for certification of the districts, and once certified, will provide technical and promotional support. So it's a fully integrated system. Cultural districts will celebrate and nurture our local creative economies, benefiting their communities and the state. This measure has enjoyed strong bipartisan support, a lot of enthusiasm behind it, and I urge your aye vote. I have with me today Craig Watson, the Director of the California Arts Council.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom.
Mr. Chairman and committee, again, Craig Watson, Director of your state arts agency, the California Arts Council. We're delighted to be named in this legislation and feel that we have an opportunity as a state to join 14 other states who have found the benefit of like legislation. And just as Representative Bloom suggested, in every corner of the state, whether it's Folsom or Riverside or San Diego or Chula Vista or San Francisco, doesn't matter if it's a big city or a rural community, California is filled with artists and creative people. This bill will allow the setting up of these arts and culture districts, which then will leverage and help promote opportunities for artists and creative people in clusters. Usually these are walkable, definable geographic areas, again, found in both rural and urban areas. And we're excited to be partnered in this. We're a good partner. We right now administer, for instance, one of the largest arts and corrections programs in partnership with an interagency agreement with our California Department of Corrections. We're partnered with the Department of Education in looking at how we bring arts back into our schools. And arts and culture districts are a form of partnership with cities and our local municipalities, which so many of you have come out of in your own careers. So I know in speaking with Representative Waldron, for instance, the importance of this to a community like Escondido and the opportunity to identify a community that not only already celebrates the arts, but could benefit from having the imprimatur of the state's designation. So we are excited by this legislation. We're raring to go, and ask for your aye vote.
Good morning. I'm Lynn Fawkes. It's afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Lynn Fawkes. I represent the California Music Educators. We have not taken a formal position on the bill. We're in the process of that, but we do think it's a valuable measure. We'd like the committee to vote to move it forward, and we look forward to entering into a more formal position and relationship with both the sponsor and the author. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Jason Schmelzer on behalf of California Arts Advocates in strong support of the bill.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Karen Lang on behalf of the City and County of San Francisco and the San Francisco Arts Council in support. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Celeste DeWald. I'm the Executive Director of the California Association of Museums, and we have a position of support. Thank you.
Joe Landon, Executive Director, California Alliance for Arts Education. Students receive arts education in schools, in the home, and in the community. We see this legislation as enhancing the experience of arts education for every student. Thank you.
Thank you. Further witnesses in support? Seeing none. Witnesses in opposition? Seeing none. Questions? Do we have a motion? We have a motion from Ms. Gonzalez, second from Mr. Chu. Any questions or comments from the committee? Ms. Waldron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was very excited about this bill when I first saw it, and Mr. Bloom allowed me to jump on as a co-author. And coming from an older community, as was mentioned, my city of Escondido, we did a lot of things. We did historic preservation areas, which utilized the Mills Act. A lot of times these cultural districts will also incorporate historic preservation Mills Act programs. It also increases tourism, the quality of life aspects, and economic development, as was mentioned, community revitalization. One of the exciting things, I mean, the fact that redevelopment was taken away from cities. You know, they're always grappling with a way to try to once again go back and do some revitalization, especially in the urban core. And, you know, one of the questions that keeps coming up is, well, how do you, just create this district? You can't just create it and then everyone comes. It's almost like it's an organic growth that happens naturally in an area that then would encompass this type of district. And the arts, the state arts agency, and I'm not saying
California Arts Council.
It's California Arts Council. Your role would be actually to identify those areas and be able to work. It's almost like a state and local partnership. So
Which we already have a program called State Local Partners, where we work with usually the Board of Supervisors has designated a significant agency, either the Arts Commission or Arts Council. But you're right, in addition to those kinds of structures, each city is hungry. Many of them are hungry for this kind of support. And so we can imagine, as they do in Massachusetts and Denver and Maryland and Louisiana, several other states, where this type of program has really caught fire. And given the emotional and marketing and branding support that those advocates that are often quite passionate but need some technical assistance, need this kind of support that we think we can give through the program, you're absolutely right. That's what we see.
And I see it as a bipartisan effort. I mean, there's lots of things that could come into play depending on the district. You know, the sales tax credit, property tax credits, income tax credits for artists. As I said, the Mills Act, preservation credits, low-interest loans. We did in our city a facade improvement program the city was able to do, streamline development because we wanted artist lofts. All those things were taken away from us with redevelopment. So I'm excited to support this, and we'll be supporting it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Waldron. Any further questions or comments from the committee? Okay, Mr. Bloom, you may close.
Thank you. California already enjoys a reputation, unlike some other states, like, say, Florida, for being a center for the arts, amongst other things. And this bill will only enhance our reputation and our ability to reach out to people who visit California and people who live here and identify where our cultural resources and assets are. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. We have a motion and a second. I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
The motion is due pass and re-refer to the Committee on Appropriations. Mainshine.
Aye.
Mainshine, aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Gonzalez, aye. Alejo. Alejo, aye. Chu. Chu, aye. Cooley.
Aye.
Cooley, aye. Gordon.
Aye.
Gordon, aye. Holden. Linder.
Aye.
Linder, aye. Waldron. Waldron, aye.